And we're live. Good afternoon. Thank you all so very much for your patience and tuning in to today's career conversation. I am about to have an amazing conversation with Miss JoAna McCoy. She is the interim director at the Office of HBCU Outreach. I think I just butchered that. And I
You
tried
did
and I
great.
practiced it. I practiced it and I still um didn't get it out quite right. But again, thank you so much for being a part of this series. I'm really excited to learn more about your career journey. And so with that being said, I want to jump in with my first question.
Okay.
What does your family think you do when you tell them you're an interim director?
That is funny. So I recently asked that question after I received your list of questions. My youngest said, I know you work at the Department of Transportation. Period. That was the period. That's what she knows. My
Oh, okay.
son says, I mean, I know you work for transportation and you do something in education, and sometimes you take day trips and you work with interns, but I don't know what education has to do with transportation, and I'm not quite sure what you really do, but you got to work every day. You got to work every day. It's
He said, but you
important that
go,
I go to work every day. That's the key.
of course, you got to keep everything coming, all the snacks, all the fun events.
They know that it has some public faces because occasionally there's a day trip or an evening event. So they got that piece together. And then because we do the interns reception at the governor's mansion, they know that I have met him or seen him before.
Oh, cool.
They don't know why. One of them actually doesn't care why because that's not relevant. I mean, he didn't have any snacks. So they have no clue.
Oh man. So then what do you actually do?
Okay. I get the pleasure and the privilege of creating a talent pipeline for the North Carolina Department of Transportation via HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, and the designated minority serving institutions in North Carolina. Well, all of that to say, I get to talk to students, meet students, and share with them how their major or interest can relate to DOT. Because for the
Oh,
most part, we have everything but pharmacists and sports management. We have
okay.
doctors in DMV, we have nurses in DMV. So you're a doctor or a nurse, or think you want to be a doctor or a nurse. If there's a project out there that they were looking for, we got a place for you. If you want to volunteer, we have a volunteer program for those who really can't commit to an internship, but do have an interest and would like to do some job shadowing. So that I get to do the fun stuff. I get to do the
That
fun
sounds
stuff.
like a lot of fun. But
And
I would have never guessed like there you can be a doctor and be a part of like this program. I didn't even know that. So I'm learning things today.
I didn't know that. Before coming into this space several years ago, I didn't know that DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV is Department of Motor Vehicles. One, it's a part of DOT. So people have to, I want to make sure people understand that they're not two different entities. It is one organization in North Carolina, anyway. And that DMV has doctors and nurses because somebody has to certify people to do over the road driving. The
Huh.
other fun thing I get to do is there's a program called the National Summer Transportation Institute. It is funded through the Federal Highway Administration and it's for middle school and high school students. And it
Oh.
gives them a view and exposure to careers in transportation. And they are always a lot of fun because some of the host sites come up and the kids fly. So there are middle school students
Oh wow.
taking flights. There's a program called ACE Academy. And so if a school wants to, they can include a week of ACE Academy where you teach them all about aviation. It's the
Oh
coolest
wow.
thing ever. And
Right. Could you
it just exposes them.
I mean, aviation is definitely like a cool area. I don't think anybody would have ever thought, okay, well, I can go be a part of this internship program and I can fly. Like most of us would never dream.
And this is the summer transportation program. So this is not even my internship. These are middle and high school students that get an opportunity to fly if they want to.
Wow.
They can pilot the plane and you get to see the aha moments when they realize that wait, I can do this for real. I can do this for a job. I can do this for a living and they're excited because you know that an entire portal just opened for them into
That's
what their
amazing.
world can become. It is a lot of fun.
Well, it sounds like you have a super cool job. How did you get into this role?
Okay, breadcrumbs. So
Okay.
the short story is I relocated to Kentucky from Tennessee. I took a job at Kentucky State University, and it was a program director for a federally funded program. I didn't know anything about it.
You
Mm-mm.
just said, "Hey, I'm moving."
Well, my husband had taken a job, and so my family relocated, and I was
Okay.
looking for employment. So, excuse me, had a little bit of education. I had a bachelor's degree. Excuse me, and that's in marketing, but I had no work in this area. And so that program was called Ag Discoveries, Animal Science and Health Medicine. I like animals. So in my mind, this can be great. I get to see a whole bunch of animals for 2 weeks. Let's do it. Well,
Okay.
that program led to me being the program director for the National Summer Transportation Institute at Kentucky State University. And then I left State University and I took a job in Kentucky Transportation's cabinet, which had
Oh,
been
cool.
the funder for the NSTI program. Fast forward a few years, and we relocated again. We were a bit nomadic, and we came to North Carolina. And there was a job opening doing everything I'd done in Kentucky into one role in North Carolina.
Oh,
And
wow.
I applied for it. I interviewed for it. I was selected, and here I am. And that's just kind of how the breadcrumbs led here, because I didn't go into this knowing in 2009 I was going to end up here in 2021.
Wow. So this has been like a really cool journey of like kind of nomad, and I think that's really how you and I met, me and my
Yep,
nomadic life. um, but when you found this job and you saw how much it aligned with everything you'd done before, how did you feel?
a God wink. I
that,
felt like it was a
that
God wink. It was like,
he's like
okay.
he's like,
So,
this one's for you.
yep, yep. It was like, okay, wait a minute. So there was a method to, because I couldn't see the end of the road. I couldn't see where the steps, I'm following the steps for sure, but I can't see where they're leading me ultimately, because these were just things that were available to me. I had wonderful mentors and a dynamic support system. So I was being guided this way and that way, and it just aligned with my values. It aligned with my priorities. And I have children, and it aligned with what was important to me. And my
Yeah.
children are my first priority. Work comes second. And it allowed me to do the things I needed to do to care for myself and my family, and still earn a good living, have engaging work, and be excited. So,
That's amazing.
yeah,
Can you
it
talk? You
really is.
mentioned alignment. Can you talk a little bit more about your process in trying to figure out how a job is a good alignment for you?
Sure. So, what I look at is, if it's a company or an organization or an agency, because I work in state government, what are the values? Not what are the values that are written on the paper. What are the values that you see being acted out? What is that company, agency, organization's involvement in the community? What we've been talking a lot about in different circles is our agencies, our workplaces need to look more like the communities that we serve and the communities we're trying to reach. So, what is this place that I think I want to work at? What are we doing to get there? So, I look at that piece. I look at how people are treated. And Glassdoor is a great one. Whether people are
Yes.
disgruntled or happy, they feel free to share whatever it is either way. Social media presence, I'm sorry, of an organization now is something I look at, because do you engage? Do you respond? Do you comment? What is going on? Community service. Is this place active in the community? Because that's important to me. So, and we all hear about, and work-life balance is talked about a lot.
A
What
lot.
does that mean for an organization? So when I'm looking at alignment, I'm looking at, is what I'm trying to do are they doing any of the things that matter to me? compensation is also important. What do you pay? Because I
Of
know you
course.
want, I want to live my best life. I want my people to have some of the best experiences of their lives so that they know that they really can go anywhere and experience anything. And I think that all those eye opening experiences start at home when possible. So, is this place asking me to do a lot of? So,
Oh,
I look at that as well.
I lost you for a split second. You said, is this place asking me to do a lot of
A lot of things. Am I being compensated for the work that I'm being asked to do? And
that?
am I being fairly compensated for the work that I'm asked to do?
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so we've talked about how you found this like really great alignment in your current role, but what did you want to be when you grew up?
Mm, fun fact, I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer.
Wow.
Right. So I was in elementary school when the Challenger went up, the first one that had the teacher on it. And she was going to be
Wow.
the first teacher in space. And in my elementary school, we all gathered around TVs in various areas to watch it. And unfortunately, it had a tragic end.
Yeah.
Well, shortly before that launch, my family had taken a trip to Huntsville, Alabama, and we were on vacation. We were just hanging out, and we went to the Space and Rocket Center, the Huntsville Space and Rocket Center. And I thought that was hands down the coolest place I had ever been because I hadn't been to Disney World yet. So,
Okay.
I thought, wait, this is a real job. You can do this for real. Like, I can either build these rockets, I can go into space, I can do this thing. And my parents were like, yeah, anybody can do this. And you can do
Oh,
this.
that's awesome. Your parents were like all in. Like, why not?
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah. So
important.
it is. It really is. And it was through, I mean, I mentioned exposure earlier. It was through that exposure. So our vacations would seem like this is just about to be fun, but we would be exposed to something different every time. So I think I was about 7 or 8 with that experience. And then we watched the Challenger, and I'm like, yes, aeronautical engineer. And I'm all about it. So then I went junior high school, and I joined a little engineering club that my local city had going on. Um, and I was on an engineering track until high school.
Wow.
And
So you stuck with it.
yeah, unfortunately, I had a teacher who was just not very encouraging, not very helpful, and led me to believe that I couldn't do any of these things, and just kind of discouraged it consistently.
Oh,
And I went
wow.
to another track. And so I ended up in college no longer interested in being an engineer of any kind
Wow.
because it was a really hard blow. It was a really hard blow. I think I was in the 10th or 11th grade and having to go through this year, and there's no other teacher, and I am only at this school specifically for this reason because that's why I went to this school.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
just a little, it was a bitter pill to swallow. So then I moved to business.
Yeah,
And
that's a shift. I'm so
yeah,
heartbroken to like realize like what a big impact teachers and educators have. Like it's so important that you're surrounded by people that support you and believe in you.
yeah. And that it's pivotal because it makes the difference between a child moving forward or not moving forward. Yeah, you have support at home, but if the educational system that you're in is not helping to support what you have at home, where do you go? What do you do? And a lot of the things that exist now weren't available when I was in high school. So,
Right.
I mean, the internet just was not what it is now. I couldn't connect with people across the world to ask them questions like you can now. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. I had an interview earlier in the year, and she
Mm-hmm.
shared, hey, there's a group called Melanated Mariners on Instagram. So there's so
Mm-hmm.
many ways to like connect with like people who are doing what you want to do, and it's not limited to your neighbor or your
Right.
parents' connections from work. That is a gift I think sometimes we take for granted.
Yeah.
Speaking of, gifts, what advice would you give someone who wanted to be in your position, maybe to be a director for outreach for HBCUs? What kind of gifts and talents do they need?
That's a really good question. They need the gifts and talents. They really need to care because it really has to matter. This cannot be strictly for show or for politics, or the agenda cannot be personal gain or you won't be successful. So they need to care about what is going on with the student, what they can really do to help. Because I actually do tell students internships are a great place to cut your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you do something egregious, they largely will not fire you. They might not invite you back next year because you weren't a good worker, but unless you do something egregious, you will be able to finish out this session. Internships are also a great place to find out what you want to do and what you don't want to do. I think to be in this position, the responsibility is to be compassionate, to listen, to engage, to know your internal customers as well as your external customers, and to educate, because there are a lot of individuals who don't understand that HBCUs are not blacks only colleges. And when you
Correct.
work in a place where people of color are minorities, sometimes it can be a challenge to have the tough conversations with non-minorities on why this matters. So in this position, someone needs to know how to be an ally and how to
Hmm.
find an ally. And sometimes I have to disagree without being disagreeable. And it's a skill to that, to disagree without being disagreeable. But also, when I mentioned educating in a way that's not a gotcha, because I'm not trying to get you, I'm trying to help you understand the importance of this. And I meet
Yeah.
people where they are. um, and sometimes I tell students, it's okay if this is not what you want to do, because it's okay if this is not your field of choice. The purpose is to find out what your field of choice is before you graduate from college, so that you have not spent 4 years studying something that you have absolutely no interest in.
That is such a powerful point. Making the time to do the internship so you can kind of test drive a career rather than be committed to something and you're, $100,000 in the hole and have no interest in it. Like it happens.
It does. It
It does.
does. Um, I would hate for someone to think that they really, really, really want to be an engineer and they never make the time to do an internship, a fellowship, or a co op. And they come out and they hate everything about it and decide what they really like is painting.
Wow. That would be a pretty tragic moment. I don't know what you could do to kind of pivot that. I think you learn a lot of skills in engineering, but it doesn't guarantee the doors will open. Um, yeah, but you said somebody needs to be compassionate. They need to be able to be a, disagree without being disagreeable. Someone who's an ally. You said also to be able to find allies. Do you have any sort of pointers on people who are trying to find allies? What that process may look like?
Um, I think it comes in meeting people in your organization, finding out what is interesting to them. So listening, actively listening, not listening to respond, but finding out what's important to them, what their goals are. Um, what is the business pain that they're having, and how can you help them resolve it? And when people see that you are there to be a supporter of what they have going on, they're more likely to be an ally, because the you're not trying to take over. You're not trying to change them. You may be trying to change the face or add some diversity to some things, but you're not making them feel like bad people because of the decisions that they're making.
That makes perfect sense. And I really like how you pointed out how you have to really be a support. That's allyship is kind of a two-way street in
It
some ways.
is.
You've got
Mm-hmm.
to be open to receiving and giving the help.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think you make a great point. What do you wish you knew before you started on this career path?
Oh, wow. Huh. Let me me see. I wish I knew that my best really is enough.
Ooh.
No matter what it looks like, if it's my best, it really is enough. That's it.
That is more than enough. I think that's an important lesson for a lot of people to learn. I feel like a lot of people who are very interested in being successful and ambitious sometimes can box themselves into going, well, I've got to shoot for the moon, when it's like, really, if you go around the corner, that's probably okay.
And rest. When I first got started in this role, I was running like crazy.
Hmm.
Busy and productive are not the same. I am no longer interested in just being busy for the sake of busy. I can be productive, and productivity is what matters to me. But my calendar is not booked and busy for the sake of saying I'm booked and busy. I've let
That,
some stuff go because it was busy, but it wasn't productive and it wasn't getting towards the end goals for me personally or professionally. It was just a lot of my time being used for other things.
I feel that I'm in the same space at the moment of trying to figure out what's actually important to me. What balls can I drop?
Right. Right.
Because some of them are not important. I'm not going to wake up, 5 years from now or even 5 minutes from now and go, I really wish I had a. No, no, you actually don't care. Just
Right.
be honest.
Sometimes it just doesn't matter that much, and that's okay because maybe it'll matter again one day. But in this moment of time, in this space, it's just not the priority. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter too much.
That makes sense. So we talked about being busy versus productive. What is something that you enjoy doing most in your role?
Making the connections. I enjoy being a connector, and I like to think of myself as a bridge. So
Ooh.
I like to talk to the students, go to the universities, and we do something called Summer STEM, where it's a full business immersion day for teachers. And we
Oh,
teach
wow.
them we teach them what's going on in our agency. And one of the things that has been so successful that we introduced a couple of years ago is a lunch panel. And we take people from all different parts of the organization and we bring them in. I'm partial to women. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that out there. So
Yeah.
our female pilot, female engineers, women in rail, women in ferry, those are the people that I reach out to first because I really want teachers to know that these careers exist and that there are women in these careers so they can tell their students about the women in these careers. But to keep it fair, it's across the board. And what I like to do is have an open panel discussion. And so teachers ask these industry professionals all types of questions, namely, how did you know this is what you wanted to do or who impacted this? And sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes it's a parent. But what the teachers go back and do is they take everything they've learned from us and they have to create a lesson plan called, project-based learning. At the end of the year, at the end of the school year, there's something called a STEMposium. It's generally in May.
Oh,
Well, we as an agency and other industry partners get to go out and see what the teachers have taught their students. And the students have then created a project based upon what the teachers learned from us the previous year. It is
wow.
so interesting to see how they take what they saw with us in, say, July of 2021 and it's implemented in May of 2020, executed, and then you see what the students have come up with in May of 2022.
Wow.
That's the connection. That's the stuff that makes me so happy. And then when kids get to see themselves, young people, interns, high school, middle school kids get to see themselves in roles and in places they never thought they could be. And it's
That's
simple
powerful.
stuff. Yeah, that's my favorite part. That is my absolute favorite part. The aha moments are what I live for.
Okay. So you are a bridge to AHA.
Bridge, I like it. I'm putting that on my resume, on my LinkedIn profile. I'm a bridge to aha.
I love it. I have super enjoyed our conversation. Is there anything that I have not asked that you would like to share?
So I'm a little tricky in interviews. The question I hate
Oh,
the most is what is your greatest weakness?
oh, heh, me too.
So sometimes my answer is gelato.
Do you really say gelato to people? Okay, so you say gelato. That's fine. What's your favorite flavor then?
Chocolate.
Chocolate? You said that like there's no other flavor. What do you mean? That was look on your face. Like my favorite flavor is gelato. It is my weakness in life.
Yeah. But I think it's such an interesting question, and I don't know why we're still asking it, because there's a better way to find out what people's challenges are and where they need support. The question is, where would you like to be supported in your role? Where have you found it most important to be supported?
Now that is a great pivot from the typical question. How do you need to be supported to be successful? And it kind of takes me back to when I had interns a couple summers ago, and I would
Hmm.
have my weekly call with them. I would check in on Mondays. I say, look, I don't, I can't obviously be in, your space constantly checking
Hmm.
on you, but I want to make sure that we've got a scheduled time and an appointment every week. And so we would
Yep.
sit down and I say, look, we got 15 minutes. Let's talk. And one of the things I would always ask every week was, how can I support you?
Yep.
How can I help you be successful this week? You tell me.
Hmm.
Because even as interns, I think that you should train them to understand that they should expect to be supported by their leaders as well
They
going into
should.
their career.
Hmm.
Like that's not an unreasonable expectation.
That is a base level need being met. That's not an unreasonable expectation. And frankly, if you're working somewhere that does not do that, that's not the place for you. I always tell interns, be interns and just young people, people in general, be mindful of how you're being treated during the interview process, because it's like a marriage. If they don't treat you well when you're dating, they're definitely not going to treat you well when they marry you. So if you are not being treated well during the interview, hiring, onboarding process, if no one is communicating with you at all, um, but they say that they're interested in you. So understand that this is the environment that you're going to work in. And if it doesn't feel good to you, you're going to be in a place that doesn't feel good to you. And that's probably not going to work long term. And I don't
It's
mean,
diminishing, yeah.
yeah, I don't mean 5 or 10 years long term. I mean in the next 30, 60, 90 days long term, because there's a lack of communication. The other thing I would say is it is helpful when you know how you work. I work best in a collaborative environment. I don't do well in top down, where if you and I are here and we're talking, if your position is a different position or on a different level, I need to go talk to 10 people before I can talk to you. But I see you right here.
That's crazy.
I don't do well in those types of environments. I feel like it's a barrier to accomplishing goals.
Yeah, that's one of the gifts. Like in my current role, is like I can pick the phone up. It's
Hmm.
relatively flat organization. They're like, if you want to call a CEO, call him. He's answered my emails. So
Right.
I mean,
It's that type of thing. And I think that it's helpful when people know that how you work. For some people, rank file 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they do well in it. For
yeah.
me, I am gonna lose my mind because I see the person I need to ask the question, but I need to get permission to talk to the person I'm looking at. It's just not a good fit for me.
No, that is wise. I think that's a great piece of sort of advice and guidance to get to know yourself as a professional and understand what you need. How do you work? Another question I like to ask is, what is the best way to communicate with you? That's part of like my proposal management process. I go, do you want me to jabber you, email you, call you, send you a
Hmm.
carrier pigeon, come to your office? you
Right.
know, uh, yeah. So that you understand, do I need to make an appointment with you? Is that better than me kind of just popping in because the way you manage yourself? Yeah, so those
Yeah.
are really good points.
That's the
Really.
thing that interns are taught their first week in orientation. We release
Wow.
them on a Friday. So we do a full week of orientation, not just a 1 day onboarding. And they are released on a Friday to their management team to just give them an idea of how to get there, how to navigate, where they're going. But question number one is, when you find out, make sure your supervisor, you meet them face to face. You want to get their phone number, you want to get their email address, you want to find out how they want to be communicated with and what they want to be communicated with about. So,
Wow.
you running late? Do they want you to call them, text them, email them and let them know? Of course, absences, but this is something they go in, they're taught to go in asking on day one. So there's never a situation where, well, I didn't know how to get in touch with my manager.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
you did. Yeah, you did. You should have.
You should. We advised you and guided you in this direction.
We
Yeah, but I
put it
think
in your
sometimes
offer
it's
letter. We put their name in your offer letter. So, no.
yeah. That makes sense. I think that sometimes it's easy to forget that interns are new not just to the industry, but to workspace in general and how that all plays out,
Mhm.
especially in corporate environments. So I love that you guys go the extra mile. You give them a week-long orientation. You say, look, you need to know these people. This is how you need to
Mhm.
navigate and conduct yourself. This is what you should wear. I'm sure you guys talk about all of that sort of thing, and that it's, situationally appropriate.
Yeah. I clasp my hands because I'm excited. We have a clothes closet for our interns with both male and female
Oh,
clothing, shoes, and
wow.
accessories. And so it is so exciting to me that we have professionals who donate new and gently used clothes to our students. And so the other day I picked up a dress, some handbags, and some men's ties from someone. And it's just exciting once the agency learns that this is what we're doing and our outside partners and our stakeholders. So we don't we don't have to worry about a student coming in saying, I don't know what to do. We got you. We got all sizes. We got from 2 to 18. Come on over. We can
Oh,
help you.
that's so sweet. Like that is next level. Like I don't think that people think about that. Like not everybody comes from a home where that stuff is accessible.
And that's the conversation piece that we have with our allies, with our internal partners. Understand that if you're coming from a home where everybody is a factory worker or a uniform wearer, you may not know what to wear in the workplace. And my joke on the first week is, if you saw it worn on TV on any type of reality show, it's probably not workplace appropriate for non-reality TV. It's just not. Um,
That's a great way to put it.
we
Like
don't
don't
get
come
no
in here
other
with your Real
story.
Housewives of Atlanta get up on.
I wasn't gonna call any names, but no, none of those things. So, um, and because of the way, that's just for some of them, it's their first job. You don't get
Yeah,
paid the day after you come to work. You don't.
that part.
You don't get a check even after your first week at work if you didn't start in the middle of a payroll cycle. So, you get paid when we get paid again. You may need some things to tide you over until we get paid again because you just didn't know how this was going to work. And we
Right.
start
Something.
at the beginning of a pay period. So try to
So
help
then
them.
those few weeks matter. Do you have enough gas money to get here or bus fare or whatever it is? Do you have lunch money or,
Do
a
you have
bag
lunch
lunch?
money? And the other thing we have worked on for when the world really does completely reopen is getting bus passes for them so
Oh,
that those
nice.
of them who don't have cars actually have access to transit, and can get around. Not everybody drives, and we have to be mindful of not everybody has a driver's license, not everybody has a car, not everybody drives. So they are coming from other places for these internships, and how are they going to get to work? And no, overall, it's really not our problem, so to speak. But why make that a barrier to them being successful when, as the Department of Transportation, we can do something about that?
Right. This is about equity. And
This
if you
is
can
about
make that
equity.
happen, you build it into your program.
Right.
That's beautiful.
Thank
I've
you.
enjoyed my conversation with you just absolutely so much. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, well, thank you for having me. And if people want to contact me, I am open. My email address is jmccoy, JMCCOY, the number 5, at ncdot.gov. I'm happy
Okay,
to answer questions.
fantastic. I'll make sure I put that in the comments for everybody too. So if they want to reach out to you, they can connect.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. This was great.
It was. Hold for me 1 second. I'm going to end the broadcast.
Okay.